3 days after I married him, his son arrived at my house with a lawyer and said, "My father knows about the $43 million. I froze. My husband didn't know. Nobody was supposed to know. I had hidden the inheritance from my new husband because I wanted one thing, to know whether he loved me without knowing what I had. But then the lawyer opened his folder and showed me a document bearing my name. Someone had tried to access my fortune. And the shocking part wasn't that my secret had been discovered. It was who had been asking questions about my money and why. 3 days after I married Michael, his son Ethan showed up at my front door with a lawyer. Not flowers. Not congratulations. A lawyer. Ethan stood there holding a thick folder, his face tense, while a silver-haired man beside him introduced himself as Daniel Reeves, an attorney. "Mrs. Hart," he said, "we need to talk about something you never told your husband." My stomach tightened. "What is this about?" Ethan looked at the lawyer, then back at me. "The money," he said quietly. "The $43 million. For a few seconds, nobody moved. I had spent years making sure those words never came up in my new marriage. And now they were standing in my doorway. 3 days earlier, I had been smiling beside Michael at our small wedding, believing I had finally found the kind of love that didn't come with conditions. I was wrong. But to understand why I kept $43 million secret, you have to understand what happened before Michael ever entered my life. My first husband, Daniel, had been my best friend long before he became my husband. We met when we were both 30, when neither of us had much money. Daniel was brilliant with business. He built a logistics company into something worth far more than either of us had imagined. When he became seriously ill, everything changed. Hospitals replaced vacations. Doctors replaced dinner reservations. Our conversations went from weekend plans to test results and treatment schedules. I stayed beside him through all of it. When he died, I thought the worst thing I would ever experience had already happened. Then the estate attorney called. I remember sitting alone in Daniel's study when he told me the number. $43 million. I laughed because I thought he had made a mistake. He hadn't. Daniel had left the majority of his estate to me through a carefully structured trust. Investments, company shares, property, and accounts were suddenly mine. The money didn't make me happy. If anything, it made me suspicious. People treated me differently once they knew. Friends became curious. Distant relatives suddenly remembered how much they had always loved me. I learned a painful lesson. Money didn't change people. It revealed them. So when I eventually met Michael, I made a decision. He would never know the exact amount. Michael was a widower too. We met at a charity bookstore event. He was arguing playfully with a volunteer about where a biography belonged. I laughed. He turned around. That was our beginning. Michael wasn't flashy. He drove an ordinary SUV, lived in a modest house, and worked as a regional manager. He liked baseball and called his sister every week. Most importantly, he never asked what I was worth. When we started dating, I told him Daniel had left me financially secure. That was true. I just didn't tell him how secure. I said I had investments and enough money to live comfortably. Michael nodded and changed the subject. That moment mattered. I finally felt seen instead of valued for my bank account. His son Ethan was different. Ethan was 32, intelligent, protective of his father, and cautious around me. His mother had died years earlier. Still, he asked questions. Once, over dinner, he casually said, "Did your first husband leave you anything substantial?" I smiled. Enough to be comfortable. Ethan studied my face. How comfortable? I laughed it off. Comfortable enough. He didn't press. I thought that was the end of it. After Michael proposed, I kept my promise. Our wedding was small and private. Just family, close friends, and the man I believed loved me. For 3 days, everything felt perfect. I thought I was finally safe now. Then Ethan arrived with a lawyer. Now, standing in my doorway, I looked at the folder in his hands. "Who told you?" I whispered. Ethan didn't answer. The lawyer placed the folder on my kitchen table. "We're not here because your husband wants your money," he said. I stared at him. "Then why are you here?" He opened the folder. The first document had my name, my trust number, and one sentence highlighted in yellow. Someone had already tried to move my money. I stared at the highlighted sentence until the words blurred. Someone tried to move my money? The lawyer nodded. 3 inquiries were made into your trust within 2 weeks. None came from you. Ethan stepped closer. That's why I'm here. I looked at him. You knew about this? I knew something was wrong. I didn't know about the $43 million until yesterday. The lawyer opened another document. Your trust is protected. Your husband has no automatic ownership of those assets. But someone has been trying to learn exactly how it works. My throat went dry. Who? We don't know yet. I looked at Ethan. Then why are you here with him? He hesitated. Because I thought my father might be involved. The words hit harder than they should have. Michael, my husband, the man I had married 3 days earlier. No, I said. Michael wouldn't do that. I hope you're right, Ethan replied. He explained that he had started investigating after noticing something strange in his father's finances. Michael had recently discussed investing in a private business requiring almost $2 million. How was he getting that money? I asked. That was my question. Michael had told Ethan not to worry. An investor was supposedly helping him launch the business. But Ethan didn't believe him. Then he found my name connected to an old estate document. That's when he hired the lawyer. So, you weren't trying to take my money? Ethan shook his head. No. I was trying to find out if my father was being pulled into something dangerous. The lawyer closed the folder. Whoever is behind this knows enough about your inheritance to know where to look. That's not information someone finds accidentally. After they left, I locked the door. For the first time since my wedding, I was afraid inside my own home. I went straight to my office. My hands shook as I opened the cabinet where I kept important documents. Everything looked normal. Then I noticed the bottom drawer. It wasn't fully closed. I pulled it open. Nothing seemed missing until I saw an envelope containing a copy of my trust agreement. 1 page was gone. I sat down slowly. Someone had searched through my files, and they knew exactly what they wanted. I called my financial advisor, Martin Cole. Has anyone requested information about my trust recently? Silence. Then he said, actually, there was an inquiry. My heart dropped. When? About 10 days ago. Who made it? It came through an intermediary. Was my authorization required? Yes. That's why nothing was released. I breathed fully. My money was still protected, but someone had tried. That evening, Michael came home carrying groceries. He kissed my forehead. Everything okay? I almost told him everything. Instead, I remembered something from 2 weeks earlier. Michael had asked where I kept important financial documents. At the time, I thought nothing of it. Now the memory felt completely different. Michael, I said carefully, do you know anything about my trust? He stopped moving. For a second. Then he turned around. Why would you ask that? Because someone has been asking questions about it. His expression changed. Not dramatically. Enough. Who told you? There it was. Not denial. Not confusion. The same question I had heard before. Who told you? I asked whether you know about my trust. He sat down. I knew you had money. How? Someone told me. Who? He looked away. I can't tell you. I laughed once, without humor. You can't tell your wife who told you about her money? I was trying to protect us. From what? He didn't answer. Then his phone buzzed. He checked the screen and immediately turned it face down. I noticed. He noticed me noticing. Neither of us spoke. Later that night, after Michael went to bed, Ethan called. I found something else. What? I checked who made the inquiry into your trust. My pulse quickened. Who was it? A financial consultant connected to your first husband's estate. I sat down. That can't be right. I thought so too. What's his name? Thomas Reed. I recognized it immediately. Thomas had handled Daniel's estate after his death. I had trusted him completely. Now Ethan's voice became quieter. He didn't just talk to your husband. My stomach tightened. Who else did he contact? Ethan paused. Someone you know. Who? He said the name. And suddenly, I understood that the secret I had protected for years wasn't just known. Someone was using it. When Ethan said the name, my entire body went cold. Sarah Bennett. I knew her. Sarah had been my closest friend for 12 years. If anyone knew about my inheritance, it was Sarah. But she had promised never to tell anyone. Are you sure? I asked. Ethan nodded. The consultant contacted her first. Then your husband. I called Sarah that night. Did you tell Michael about Daniel's money? Silence. I was going to tell you. You gave my private financial information to my new husband? It wasn't like that. She explained that Michael had contacted her before the wedding. He said he was worried about me and wanted to know whether I was hiding something that could affect their marriage. Sarah believed him. So she confirmed Daniel had left me a significant inheritance. She didn't tell him the exact amount. But Michael learned that from Thomas Reed. The person I trusted had handed someone else the first piece of my secret. The lawyer met Ethan and me the next morning. He had obtained records showing Michael had discussed my trust with Thomas 3 times. Michael had asked whether marriage gave him access to my assets. Thomas explained that it did not. Then Michael asked another question. What would happen if she voluntarily transferred money into a joint account? The lawyer looked at me. That is when this becomes serious. My throat tightened. Your husband wasn't asking how to protect you. He was asking how to structure a transfer. I stared at the documents. Michael hadn't stolen anything. He hadn't forged my signature, but he had been planning for access. When Michael came home that evening, I was waiting at the kitchen table. No shouting, no tears, just the documents between us. He looked at them and stopped. You know. Yes. He sat down. I never meant to take your money. Then what did you mean to do? I wanted to build something. With my money. With our money. It was never our money. We're married. For 3 days. He lowered his eyes. I thought eventually you'd want us to combine everything. You didn't ask. I was afraid you'd say no. That sentence hurt more than any confession. He hadn't trusted me enough to ask. He had trusted himself enough to plan around my answer. Michael admitted he was struggling financially. His business idea needed more capital than he had, and he believed my inheritance could solve everything. He said Thomas convinced him that eventually I would agree. And Ethan? Michael looked away. He doesn't understand. He understands enough to protect me from you. Michael began crying. He said he loved me. Maybe part of him did. But love that comes with a financial calculation wasn't the love I thought I had married. The next morning, I called my lawyer. We protected the trust, revoked every questionable authorization, and separated our finances. Then I filed for divorce. Michael begged me not to. He promised counseling, transparency, and change. But I no longer wanted a marriage where I had to hide my wealth to feel safe. Before Ethan left, he apologized. I know I came here looking like the villain. You weren't. I just didn't want my father to make a mistake he couldn't undo. You saved me from making one too. Months later, the divorce was finalized. I never publicly humiliated Michael. My $43 million remained protected and under my control. But something else changed. I stopped feeling ashamed of having it. For years, I believed keeping my fortune secret was the only way to know whether someone loved me. Now I understood something different. Money doesn't create someone's character. It reveals it. Michael saw $43 million and imagined what it could do for him. Ethan saw the same secret and realized I needed protection. And I finally saw the truth. I didn't lose a husband because he discovered my money. I lost a husband because once he discovered it, he stopped seeing me as someone he loved and started seeing me as an opportunity. 3 days after my divorce was final, I moved into a smaller house. Just sunlight through the windows and peace I hadn't felt in years. That morning, I made coffee and stood quietly in my kitchen. I was finally thinking about protecting myself. Daniel's greatest gift wasn't the $43 million. It was the freedom to choose who stayed in my life. And this time I chose myself.